Greg Byrne is the athletics
way
director at Alabama. He's with us now on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Doing wonderful. Thanks a lot. What was the inspiration for the design of that building? I know you talked about visiting a lot of places, so I'm sure it's a conglomeration of them.
Yeah, a few different things. One is a place that most people that are listening probably have never been to, but when my dad was athletic director at Oregon in the 80s, they played at a place called Mack Court that was built, I think, in the 20s, and it was actually 4 balconies. And so we used to sit in the third balcony and you literally just look straight down at the court. And it was loud. I remember Adam Keefe from Stanford refused to shoot free throws because the basket wouldn't stop shaking by the students. And that I had always stuck with me as saying that, there were a lot of challenges with that building because it was built in the 20s. I hit my head down in the basement a couple of times on pipes because it was so, the ceilings were so low, but I mean, it was a great intimate environment. And I think one of the things with architecture now, as we talk about college sports, having that type of intimate environment is something that I think really is a difference maker from the impact it has on your team, the impact it has on the energy with your fans they're able to produce during a game. And so as we were starting to explore, and when we announced the Crimson Standard several years ago, we just had basically a placeholder to say, hey, let's look at renovating Coleman. And just to show people that we had plans, that this was, a 10-year vision of what we were trying to create for the University of Alabama. And so we kept looking and studying and researching and quite frankly, talking to donors who we hope could support this. And it was pretty obvious that a new arena was going to have a lot more, momentum from a fundraising standpoint. I think a potential new arena would be something that I think would create a lot of buzz and energy and excitement. And so obviously there's still steps we have to take through the process with our board of trustees and Dr. Bell to make sure we're following the university guidelines. But getting that announced last week was a big deal, I think, for everybody involved. And, I obviously we know anytime we do anything, we're never going to bat 1,000, but I think, the response that we've received from our fan base has been very positive. And I can tell you the response internally within our athletic department, we had a head coach's call this morning, has been very positive too. So we feel like good steps. We've got a lot of work still to do to make it a reality, but having it out there publicly was a big one, and we feel really good about.
Yeah, for Alabama fans, I don't think this can happen fast enough. You said there's steps to the process, but in your mind, is there a timetable for this project?
Well, I'd like to put a shovel in the ground tomorrow if we could. But as you can imagine, right now, there's a few different steps we have to go through. All of that, our board of trustees controls the building processes on our campuses here at University of Alabama, UAB, and UA and Huntsville as well. So we have to make sure we follow all those guidelines, and they've got an important job to do. And so, they're going to be looking at construction costs. They're going to be looking at total project costs. We're going to be looking at, the land that we think is a good potential site for it, to say, is this the one that makes the most sense now that we had done our initial legwork and have a chance to have feedback. When we get the go ahead on hiring the architect and such, that's going to be about a year design, somewhere around there. And then after that, a construction time frame is probably about 18 months. It's a lot easier to build something new than try to renovate with schedules and everything going on. So I think from a disruption standpoint, it'll be in a more efficient time frame than if we were to renovate. But I want it to be as soon as possible, but we got to do it based off of the processes that we're all responsible for.
And Greg Byrne is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Greg, the students around the court, it's been something that's been discussed for years now. How important was it, with especially what Nate has created with the student body, how they turn out and are there hours before the game now? How important was it for you to get them that vantage point on the court?
Yeah, that was actually going back to what I talked about earlier about what I grew up around at Mack Court in Eugene. Is the students were around 3/4 of the court back then. And that's something that we, I just think that's a great part of college basketball. And then, and I tell you, our man Fluff, he deserves a ton of credit for the energy he brought to our student section and Crimson Chaos, and that has continued to carry on absolutely after the very sad passing of him last year. But we want to make sure that the energy that our students are bringing right now, we are really proud of them, and so let's reward them, give them a place to be around the court, create that energy. And I think that will be a difference maker for us here. And right now at Coleman, with about 14,000 plus seats, they get 2,200 seats. We're looking at to be about 10,400, 10,300, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe. And that can fluctuate a bit, but they're not going to take a step back on how many seats they have, and they're going to get much better seats too. So I think that's going to be a great thing for our men's basketball program. I think that'll carry over to women's basketball and gymnastics as well. But it also has a tremendous impact on recruiting for all of our other programs. Football will use men's basketball game days to recruit.
Yep.
If it's a high energy, something good for them to be a part of. And I think that will do nothing but increase to where recruits will come in and be a part of that.
Greg,
that helps
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Student recruiting, everything else. So there's multiple layers and impact. And I think having the students around the court really is a critical part of what we're going to try to do long term.
I apologize for interrupting you there. Some listeners, knowing you were coming on, wanted us to ask you a couple questions. If I could fire those away, and I understand the answer might be we don't know yet, but here we go.
I'm really good at playing the ignorant card because I come by now.
I completely understand. It's a great trait to have. Season tickets, the size of the venue. Will there be a reduction in season tickets available for basketball, do you think?
No, based off of what we're selling right now, there won't be.
Okay.
And we hope that's a problem to have. And I said this the other day. I don't know if any of you were on when I met with the media. When we've done our research, and we've spent a lot of time on it, looking at historical figures for quite a while back on where we have been from a men's basketball attendance, and gymnastics too. And the schools that we went and visited, our average actually scanned in. Now, what we announced from an attendance standpoint is a bit of a hybrid, right? It's tickets out, it's people scanned in, counting everybody in the building. So it's a bit of a hybrid in how you announce it. Our highest on average for the last 5 years. So the one game that was the highest attended in the last 5 years, and we took 2020 out of there, with the reduced attendance, was about 10,600 was the average over 5 years for the highest for that season. Okay.
Right.
The other thing, what do you think is the hardest seats to sell?
The hardest seats to sell.
The bad seats.
All the way at the top, right?
The top corners.
Yeah.
Yep. Top corners, whatever, but Bob Euchre's nosebleed seats, right? And so what drives the cost of an arena up to, which limits you on what you can do, is those highest seats. Because as soon as the more north you go and height you bring to an arena, it drives the price up quite a bit, just from a support and everything along with it. So that's where we kind of came up with that number. So I think from a 60, if you take out the student seats and you take out some of the premium areas, the clubs and a few boxes and things like that we'd like to do, you're talking about 67% of the seating in the new arena would still be general seating Tide Pride.
Yeah.
That's we feel really good about that number.
Okay. If you build it in one of the desired areas over near the softball fields, and people were concerned about RV parking, is that a consideration?
No, actually, when you drive down 82, there's actually a lot right above there that's empty.
Okay.
That's been a staging area for campus on different campus construction projects. I know when we were doing all the work over at Bryant-Denny, a lot of the workers on those days would park at that empty lot and get bussed over to Bryant-Denny. So it would not negatively impact RV parking for football.
And Royal Payne asks, do you envision this as multi-use or school only, like concerts, things like that?
Yeah. So what we would have said is that it would be a competition facility for men's and women's basketball and gymnastics. Obviously, we'd want our teams to be able to practice in there when they want to. It's kind of like we practice occasionally down at Bryant-Denny, right? Even though we practice right outside of my window here 90% of the time or in the indoor. So same way where the men and women on the teams are going to want to have that home rim feel and all those different home court feel. So they'll practice there occasionally. But if there are opportunities in the community during certain times of the year to have different events, we certainly would be wide open to it. to anything we can do to enhance our local community and campus and economy, we're all for it.
So there was an AP story that busted last Monday, the 31st, that said Alabama is considering alcohol sales at Coleman Coliseum. 4 more home games this year. Is it a possibility in 2022 that it happens?
Yes. In fact, we were waiting on the city council to approve it. They have approved it, and yes, I anticipate it happening this season. Be on the lookout.
Yeah. Trust me, I was at the game Saturday. We needed it Saturday night.
The
shots weren't dropping. I just 2 suggestions. I'd flip the court around. Well, I love the design. I'd flip the court around.
Don't listen to him.
And then I would move the media to those top seats. Move them where we're too close. Our seats are too good. Move us to the top of the arena. We're in football stadiums, and we're up and above the game. We can watch basketball that way too. So move us to the top. You don't need us in the view of the camera. Move us.
Jim, you know what? I hope this is being recorded, because I want to make sure this, when we put the media up there, that we can say, hey, we were going to put you right in the center court, first 2 rows, but Jim wanted us put up top. As far as the court, so I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the media is really important. We want to be very respectful of that, and at the same time, too, obviously, you got to try to have a model that works to be able to pay for it and have long-term financial health with it too. So I do appreciate the approach on that. As far as the court configuration, it's interesting. I knew when we put it out that way, there would be a lot of feedback on that one. From what I can tell, I don't read the message boards or anything, but I can tell that that was that we did get some feedback on that. That has gotten to me. I've actually talked to a number of coaches about that outside of our program too, and there's 2 different ways to look at it. We have not made our mind up, so I want that to be very clear. I do like the idea of having the students in camera shot.
Right.
Okay. I think there's a lot of value to it. You'll also talk to some coaches. You'll talk to, and I'm saying just coaches outside our program right now. All right. You also talk to some TV execs and things like that from a production standpoint. They do think there is value because of the high profile nature of your men's and women's coaches. And you know, their consistency with you with your program. Obviously kids come and go, and hopefully in today's world, they come and go a little quicker than they used to. But at the same time, too, you know, we have not made our mind up on that. I think there's 2 different ways to look at it. But I do kind of personally, I kind of lean a little bit more towards having the students in camera angle.
So you mean by having the benches on the camera angle, it's an easier shot for TV to keep Nate and Calipari in the shots a little easier for them. I see. I never even thought of that.
Yep.
Hey, random question. Back to your Eugene days. Is Steve Prefontaine the greatest Oregon athlete of all time? Not even close?
Yeah, Pre was special. We moved to Eugene in 83, and he had passed away, I think, in 77, 78. And, you know, part of living there is you go to Pre's Rock and you know, the history there. You know, he wore I believe he wore the first pair of Nike running shoes in competition. You know, and Phil Knight went to Oregon and started selling shoes out of the back of his Volvo that Bill Bowerman, who was Pre's coach, you know, made in his waffle iron. So there's a lot of history with that. Greatest athlete there ever. You know, Mariota won the Heisman, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. That's who I thought
he
of.
won the Heisman, and you know, Alberto Salazar was a great track athlete there too. You know, Dan Fouts played there, and obviously he had a heck of a career in the NFL. Never won the Super Bowl, but came dang close. So there have been other really good ones, but yeah, as far as the most historical, you probably have to put Pre up there.
Such an AD from a football school answer. You went quickly to the Heisman winner away from the track guy. Come on.
Moneymaker.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick before you go, because I know we'll get asked more about this. I got to go back to the beer question. Do you? I just know. Do you envision it at baseball, at football, at all attended events? As best as you can answer that, yeah.
Yeah, so what we said is we're going to start with men's and women's basketball and hopefully have a little sample size here shortly, and then to work with. And then if things go smoothly, then I anticipated expanding beyond there.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, he is Greg Byrne, the Alabama Athletics Director. Thank you so much for your time, Greg. Very informative.
Yep, good to talk to you all, and thanks for having me on. Hopefully it won't hurt ratings too bad.
We'll recover somehow. Thank you. Take care.
All right.
All right, that is Greg Byrne with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.